Yes, sir.
We saw your YouTube channel. It's called Jerome Love.
Really?
Yeah. We're looking up some stuff and then we found you.
How's my videos? Am I doing good?
Yeah. Really good.
Thank you. I'm actually gonna shoot one today.
You right now?
Yeah. I'm gonna try to. Hopefully it does okay.
You're setting up?
Yeah. I'm gonna be putting these on the car, these bushings, so that the car doesn't break when it drives. Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Appreciate that. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Love's House. I'm finally back in the garage. Gonna knock out the rear subframe bushings for the car. I have my own little step-by-step thing. I'm gonna try to do it in some sort of order so you can kind of follow along if you've never done it, which I'm sure like 90% of the people who own 240s have already done this, because it's something that you need to do pretty quick after buying your car. So one of the first major things you want to do is remove the brake calipers. In order to do that, you got to jack up your car, take the wheels off, and unbolt them. In order to do that, you're going to need a 14mm wrench or socket and a breaker bar. Probably won't hurt. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that out real quick. In order to do that, first thing you're going to need to do is take off the wheels. For me, I need a 13/16 socket and my breaker bar. So I'm going to knock that out. Now that the wheels are off, the next step is to dislocate the brake calipers from the chassis. Basically, why you want to do this is the whole hassle of putting the brakes back on, bleeding them, and making sure that they work. It's too much of a hassle for me right now, especially working on this small space. So all I'm going to do is zip tie the actual caliper to the strut so that it's not being dangled. But before you even do that, you're going to take the subframe off completely, because it's going to get hung up if you don't. So with your 14mm wrench, you're going to remove the top bolt and the lower bolt, and that will dislodge the caliper from the rotor so that you can continue the process. You're going to mirror this on the opposite side as well. Now that the caliper's set up so it's not going to break or fall or anything, next we're going to remove the strut. There's a 17mm bolt at the bottom here. Just going to remove that and then push it off to the side towards the front of the car. It will alleviate it getting snagged or caught later. Now that that's off, we're just going to push this. Again, we're going to push it towards the front of the car. That way when we drop it, it's not going to get snagged on the back here. Again, everything that's happening here, you're just going to mirror on the other side. Okay, so now that the rear caliper is off on both sides and the struts are off on both sides, next step is to remove the exhaust. For me, like I was saying, the exhaust is one solid piece, so I'm going to have to remove it from the headers in order to drop it. I'm going to knock that out, and once I'm at the next step, I'll turn the camera back on and we'll go from there. I ran into a snag when I was taking off the exhaust. Basically, it's one solid piece, so when I ended up taking it off, the EGR is still connected, so I couldn't just drop it completely away from the car. So I'm going to try to leave it on. I'm going to try to raise the car up a little higher in the rear, so when I drop the subframe, I can just muscle it out over the exhaust. Hopefully that works. If it doesn't, don't do this. Actually take the time and take the exhaust off fully. I'm working with limited space here, so I'm just going to muscle it regardless and make it work. Once the exhaust is dropped, the next step will be removing the e-brake bracket. There are two 10mm bolts that have to be taken off in order to remove it, so that when you drop this subframe, the e-brake bracket isn't going to tear off and fly to the wind. I'm underneath here. These are our 14mm bolts for the drive shaft. The 10mm bolts are going to be up top here. should be able to see it. I don't know how the lighting's coming off, but this guy here, and then there's another one right there. Those are the 10mm bolts. Those are gonna be difficult to get to. 14. I'm gonna need to rotate this in order to get every single one off. Now, the drive shaft is completely free, although it doesn't look like it. Just need to coax it off. There it is. I'm gonna remove the 10mm bolts here to free the e-brake cables. Now that the e-brake cable is taken off completely and the drive shaft is taken off, the next thing to do is to remove the 12mm bolt and the 17mm bolts that are still connecting the subframe to the actual chassis. To remove the bracket, which is this piece from here to here, you're gonna need your 17 for the actual subframe bushing portion, and then this is a 12mm here, and this is a 12mm here. I always say that weird. So I'm gonna knock this out with the breaker bar. Should be a lot easier. There we go. I got the 12mm bolts taken out on both sides. The only thing that's left is the actual bushing, the 17mm bolt that's in both. And then next, I'm gonna drop the actual subframe, remembering to note the brake lines that are still connected as well as the struts. At this point, I think this is pretty much home free. The only issue here is the exhaust. Like I was saying, I was not able to remove it completely, so this is gonna be very delicate. Yeah, wish me luck. If you see it out, obviously it worked. I'll let you know the struggle. I'm gonna go ahead and knock this out. Well, as you can see, I got the subframe out. It is pretty disgusting. One thing to note, the bushings aren't as bad as I thought they were gonna be. Kind of almost feels like a waste trying to go ahead and replace this, to be honest. They're eventually gonna go out since they're OEM. Replacing it before that is probably a smart move, so I'm not too upset at the state of decay. One thing it gets me is the opportunity to really clean this thing down, so I'm pretty happy about that. My garage is gonna be so nasty. So yeah, as you can see, I got the subframe out completely. I got it set on some wood right now. I don't have extra jack stands just laying around. It is what it is, but I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna get everything cleaned up so that all I gotta do tomorrow is come in, cut the bushings out. Now, I'm not gonna be setting on fire like a lot of other people do. It's probably the easiest, but I'm in a garage and I'm in an apartment complex, so I'm not gonna be able to manage to do that. But I have this flat disc that is pretty much the exact diameter of the sleeves. So I'm gonna try to go in with that and then some wire brush wheels to clean up the residue and that this doesn't get, so it doesn't cake up as much. But yeah, I have some saws that might end up coming in handy with this whole thing. I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm exhausted, I have homework still to do. So I'm gonna call it a night. It was a good day, a lot accomplished. Next video of the build, you'll see me actually putting in the subframe bushings, so stay tuned for that. Again, I appreciate everybody who came out and saw. Big thanks to the 240 page on Facebook. That's what I'm trying to say. Link will be in the description. But yeah, I'm gonna call it a night. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for joining me. Feel free to stop by anytime. Peace.